Okay, good morning class. So at this point you guys had some homework. It was out of exercise 2.7, correct? Number 4 on page 30. 31. Exercise 7. 2.7. Exercise 2.7, page 31. Number 4. So in number 4 we are told that the cattle farmer plans to fence a rectangular pasture next to a river. We have a river, so it's basically a place to graze. The length along the river is not fenced. Okay, so the cattle can drink from the river at that point. The farmer has 1,200 meters of fencing. So the length of the fence, or the perimeter, is 1,200 meters. And he wants to make the fence area as large as possible. So we're going to complete the square there to read of the maximum. The maximum grazing for his herd. Let y be the length of the rectangle and x be the width. So x is the width. So in other words, there will be another width. Not so. Show that the area of the pasture is given by the formula a is equal to 1200x minus 2x squared, or 1200x minus 2x squared. So we know that the perimeter is going to be 2x plus y. So there's going to be x plus y plus x. And that must be equal to 1200. So what we do is, we make y the subject of the formula. So it's negative 2x plus 1200. Remember they asked you to show that the area, how do you calculate the area of this rectangle? Is length times split, or x times y. It's going to be x into your y, which is now negative 2x plus 1200, which is negative 2x squared plus 1200x. Okay, and that's what they asked us to prove there. B says calculate dimensions so that the enclosed area is the maximum, and determine the maximum area. So what do we need to do? We need to complete the square. So area is equal to negative 2x squared plus 1200x. Take out negative 2 as a common factor. I'm left with x squared minus 600x. Not so? To complete the square width, I must add the number minus that same number. What's the number in this case? 600 times half is 300. 300 squared is 90,000. Not so? Here's your perfect square trinomial. Is negative 2 into x minus 300 squared minus 90,000. You multiply the negative 2 in, is negative 2 into x minus 300 squared plus 180,000. You all agree with that? Okay, so therefore the maximum area would be 180,000 meters squared, and the dimensions would be an x value of 300 meters, and your length is going to be negative 2 times 300 plus 1200. So that's going to give me a negative 600, so it's going to be 300 meters. You guys understand? Alright. Any confusion there? No? I want you guys to do number 5, okay? Your homework is number 5 of exercise 2.7. on page 31. Number 5, exercise 2.7 on page 31. Okay. Then you went into another section of work, which is what was the other homework I gave you? Have you completed 2.8? 2.9? The even numbers. Remaining sums. Okay, any problems with 2.9? Exercise 2.9 on page 36. Sorry? No problems. Are you sure? Your next heading, solving quadratic equation by completing the square. And this is on page 37. Alright, so we're looking at page 37, solving quadratic equation by completing the square. So they say consider the following equation. We've got x squared minus 16 equals 0. Now in the past we know that we could have solved this one of two ways. Okay, we could have either factorize x squared minus 16 equals 0 and get the difference of two squares, which is x minus 4, x plus 4, and then which in turn gives us x equals 4 and x equal to minus 4. Not so? So both these answers are correct. You can check your solution by substitution. Okay? So if we substitute 4 into x squared, we get 16 minus 16, which is 0. Or you substitute negative 4 in. What's negative 4 squared? Still positive 16. Positive 16 minus 16 is still 0. Not so? So both solutions are correct. That is why we say x is equal to 4 or x is equal to negative 4. Not so? We can also solve the same equation by taking the square root on both sides. But what's the rule if we introduce a square root? You must not forget plus minus. When you come on the video, then I can write on there. No, it's not. Okay. So that doesn't come on the video. Okay. So that is just something to note at this point. Okay, so let's look at example 1 on page 37. The question says solve for x squared minus 15. Solve for x squared minus 15. So one of two things, we can either take the difference of two squares. What's the square root of 15? Square root 15. Also, because I'd say a set or a radical number. So, or we can do what the second option they did there. They said x squared is equal to 15. How do I get rid of the square? Square root both sides. If I introduce square root, don't forget, plus minus. So x is equal to plus minus the square root of 15. You can write it like that, or you can say x is equal to the square root of 15, or x is equal to negative square root of 15. Right, you guys understand? Any confusion there? Any confusion? Any questions? No? Right. Let's look at the example 2. It's also on page 37. Okay. Example 2. So here we're going to complete the square. Okay. Why? Because if we look at the example 1, what do you notice? We could have applied the square root here. Can you see that? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same here when it comes to example 2 now. Okay. If we look at this trinomial here, could we have factorized that trinomial like we normally do? No, we couldn't have. So if the trinomial can factorize and they ask you to solve for x, we would then use our normal factorization rules. Okay, you guys understand? But since this example in example 2 does not have rational roots, therefore we have to do something else. Okay, and the method we're going to use to solve this trinomial is by completing the square. Okay, do you guys understand? So remember a couple of lessons ago we've dealt with completing the square, not so? So all that, the rules of completing the square still applies. Okay? So if the sum was without this equal to 0 sign, and the question was to complete the square, what would it be? So x squared plus 6x plus a number minus the same number minus 2 is equal to 0. Not so? If this wasn't here, then that would have been exactly like that when we had dealt with completing the square. Not so? Alright, so fill in that missing number there quickly. Okay, so what goes? You multiply a b by half, and 6 times half is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So this is my perfect square trinomial. Not so? So what do we get here now? This should be x plus 3 squared. What's minus 9 minus 2? Negative 11 is equal to 0. You all agree with that? So what do we do now? Now we need to solve. So we take that 11 over. So what do we get? X plus 3 squared equals 11. Now what do we do? Square root both sides. To get rid of the square. We square root both sides. If I introduce square root, what must I forget? Plus minus. So x plus 3 is equal to plus minus the square root of 11. Now what do we do? Take the negative 3 over, it becomes negative 3. So x equal to negative 3 plus minus the square root of. Okay. And we can test if it's correct. Remember the solution is negative 3 plus the square root of 11. So what I do is, I put equal to sign, so that's the last answer calculated in the calculator. So here is going to be answer squared for x squared plus 6x, so it's 6 times answer minus 2. If the answer is 0, then that is the correct x value. If it's any number other than 0, then it's not the correct solution. It needs 0 there. You see that? You could have checked with negative 3 minus the root of 11. I did a plus 1 now. No? Let's check the minus 1. And there we go. Still give me an answer. See it. You guys understand? Let's look at example. Any questions here before we go into example 3? Any questions? Example 3 is on page 38. So this one we're going to do together now, okay? Right. So what do we do first? Firstly, can that factorize a normal, like a normal trinomial? Can it factorize? Yes, okay, let's see what are the factors. 1 and 1, 1 and 4. Do we add or subtract? 4 times 1 is 4, 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. We're looking for 5. So can we factorize? No. So what must we do? Complete this. Okay, so we say x squared minus 5x plus a number. Minus the same number, minus 4 is equal to 0. Fill in what number is short and you complete the square for me, please. Okay, so what must be added here? 5 over 2 and it must be squared. So it's going to be 25 over 4. There's your perfect square triangle. Okay? So this can be written as x, carry on, minus 5 over 2 is squared. And that's you put on a calculator. Don't keep yourself brave and do it in your head. It's 16 is 30, 41, no? Negative 41 over 4. But people, that you can do on the calculator. Not so. Now what do we do? Take the negative 41 over the equal sign and then square root. Don't forget that. Plus 1. So do that for me quickly. Okay, so we take that over, becomes x minus 5 over 2 squared equals 41 over 4. Now what do we do? Square root. If we introduce square root, what mustn't we forget? Plus minus. This will be x minus 5 over 2 equals plus minus the square root of 41 over 2. Put that in your calculator, you should get the root of 41 over 2. Or we can already see that the square root of 41 is irrational. The square root of 4 is 2. So what do we do now? We get 5 over. So x is equal to becomes positive 5 plus minus the square root of 41 over 2 can all be written as over 2. Why? Because the denominators are the same. Would you like me to test it? Then let's test. So we say 5 plus the square root of 41 over 2. That's the last answer calculated on the calculator. So what I do is I substitute it back into the original formula. It should give me an answer of 0. Give me any answer other than 0, it is not in the solution. Answer squared minus 5 times answer minus 4. Give me an answer of 0. Otherwise, if you had changed that to a negative, okay, put that in the calculator, give me an answer of 0 as well. You see that, people? So, yes, if one works, of course, the other one is the other solution. Okay. Quadratic always has 2 solutions. Sometimes it has a 2-in-1 solution, it's a perfect square, or sometimes it has no solutions. Okay. No real solutions. For those of you who are going to go to advanced maths, there you're going to get you will do the study of non-real solutions and imaginary values and stuff like that. Okay. Right. Example 4, and this is on page 39. Example 4 on page 39. So this one you guys can do on your own. People, don't waste your time. The sum is on the board already. So what do we do first before in pursuit of cars? What do we do first in pursuit of completing the square? Sorry? Take out a common factor of 2. So take it out. Remember, we want a 1 in front of x squared. Right, so you're saying you're going to divide by 2, take out 2 as a common factor first. What are we left with? X squared minus 5x plus 7 over 2 equals 0. Now what do we do? Plus a number, minus that same number. What's the number in this case? 5 over 2 squared. We have 25 over. So what do we have here? Sorry? Perfect square trinomial. Which is what? X minus 5 over 2 squared. That is 12 is 75. 75. What's 75 minus 28? 11. Can't be 11. What is this? Oh, it's a 2. So it's 50. 28. So it's 11 over 2. Is that correct? 11 over 4. Okay, no problem. Now we should get upset. Right, you all agree with that? Now what do we do normally if it's completing of the square? Times the 2 in. Not so. So it's 2 into x minus 5 over 2 squared minus 11 over 2 equals 0. Now some other people or other teachers would explain that you divide throughout by 2 and then you take the 7 over 2 over the equals. This is another way of doing it. Okay? This has an extra step involved. However, in the same time, we are practicing the completing of the square for expression form. If that wasn't there, then that is what I would have done if it was in expression. You guys understand? Like I said, there is another way of doing it. So what do I do now? 11 over 2 over. So it's 2 into x minus 5 over 2 squared equals 11 over 2. Now what do I do? Divide by 2 both sides. Okay, so I got x minus 5 over 2 squared is equal to, put that in the calculator, 11 over 2 divided by 2. 11 over 4. Right, 11 over 4. Now what? Square root. If you introduce square root, plus minus. Is x minus 5 over 2 equals plus minus the square root of 11 over 2. Yeah, what's the square root of 4? 2 years. Now what? Get over the equal sign. So x is equal to positive 5 plus minus the square root of 11 over 2. So you check now if that is correct. When you calculate, you saw our check. So you guys check quickly. Is it correct? Yes. So that was number 4. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you now a chance to do exercise 2.10, the first column. Exercise 2.10, the first column on page 39. Oh yes, the question was, we didn't answer that question properly. Eh? The question was, correct to 2 decimal places. So what do we have to do? We have to Once you plug it in the calculator, so it's 5 plus the root of 11 over 2. That gave us 4,16. So x is equal to 4,16, or x is equal to, with a minus, 0,84. Okay. At this point I'll pause the video a bit. Okay, as indicated, you guys said you are done with the first three. So let's do number 1. Remember, this is on your first column. So number 1 is x squared minus 6x plus a number minus the same number minus 4 is equal to 0. You all agree with that? What's the number that must be added in this case? 3 squared and 9. It's your perfect square trinomial, which is going to give us x minus 3 squared minus 13 equals 0. Now what do we do? Take the 13 over, so it's going to x minus 3 squared equals 13. Now what? Square root both sides. If we introduce square root, what must not forget? Plus minus. So x minus 3 is equal to plus minus the root of 13. So x is equal to 3 plus minus the root of 13. Who got that wrong? Nobody. Okay, so that one is fairly simple. Let's look at number 4. So again, it's x squared plus 4x plus 2 is equal to 0. So what must be added here to complete the square root? Sorry? 2 squared minus 4. It's your perfect square trinomial, which gives us x plus 2 squared. What's negative 4 plus 2? Negative 2 equals 0. What do we do now? Take a 2 over. So it's x plus 2 all squared equals 2. Now we take the square root. If we introduce square root, what must I forget? Plus minus. So x plus 2 is equal to plus minus the square root of 2. Now what do we do? What do we do now? Take the negative 2, the 2 over. So x equal to negative 2 plus minus the square root. Okay? Who got that one wrong? Who got that one right? Okay, everybody. You didn't get it right. Where did you go wrong? Because now why didn't your hand go up? Okay, now you went up. Now you must be shy. Because you know if you didn't get it right, I'm going to ask you where you went wrong. Or is that why you just put up your hand? Right, number 7. Let's look at number C. Again, we got x squared plus 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. So we say, okay, what must be added here to complete the square with? 3 over 2, and it must be squared, which is 9 over 4. Perfect square trinomial. So what's this going to be? X, always take a sign in the middle term, plus 3 over 2 squared minus, that's 29 over 4. Is that correct? Now what do I do? Sorry? Bring 29 over 4 on the other side, which now gives us x plus 3 over 2 squared is equal to, whoa, that's strange. is equal to 29 over 4. So what do I do now? We take a square root both sides. If I introduce square root, plus minus. So x plus 3 over 2 equals plus minus the square root of 29 over 2. Now what do we do? b is 3 over 2 over. So x equal to, that becomes negative, so it's negative 3 over 2 plus minus the square root of 29 over. Any confusion? You guys done with number 10? Who's done with number 10? Alright, most of you. So let's do it. What needs to be done first in number 10? Sorry? Let's get it in standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals it. That's a form you need to get it in first, in standard form. So we take the 5 and the 8 over. It's going to become x squared minus 5x minus 8 is equal to 0. You see that, people? So now to complete the square, I need to add the number minus that same number, minus 8 is equal to 0. What's the number in this case? 5 times half. What's 5 times half? 5 over 2, yes. And it must be squared, which is 25 over 4. Perfect square trinomial. So if you write that as the binomial square, what would it be? X minus 5 over 2 squared is 32, it's 57. No? Am I correct? Right. Equals 0. Now what? Minus 52 over 4 over becomes x minus 5 over 2 squared equals 57 over 4. Now what do we do? Square root both sides. When you introduce square root, what must never get? Plus minus. So we got x minus 5 over 2 equals plus minus the square root of 57 over 2. What's wrong with you? What do we do now? We get negative 5 over 2 over. That's going to give us x is equal to 5 plus minus the square root of 57 over. Will you guys understand? You guys get it?
Good morning, mathematicians.
Yes, boss.
Because I put a class list now.
Okay. Let's do a number 13 quickly together. For those of you who haven't done it yet, I know some of you have completed it. Number 13. Bring that 5 over. Becomes 2x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Okay? What do we do now? What's the next step, people? Up 1. Sorry? 2 is a common factor. And then left with x squared minus 2x minus 5 over 2. Not so. So to complete the square, let's add a number minus the same number minus 5 over 2. What is the number in this case? 1 squared. And 1 squared is perfect square trinomial. So, so what would that perfect square trinomial be in binomial squared form? It will be x minus 1 squared Minus 1 minus 5 over 2 is negative 7 over 2. Is that correct? Equals 0. Now what do we do? Multiply that 2. So we get 2 into x minus 1 squared minus 7 equals 0. So if the question was in expression form, then that would have been your answer. No? You add without the equal sign. So what do we do now? Take the 7 over the equal sign. So it becomes 2 into x minus 1 squared equals 7. Now what? Divide by 2 both sides. So x minus 1 squared is equal to 7 over 2. Now what? Square root. If I introduce square root, what must not forget? Plus minus. So what do we get here? So x minus 1 is equal to plus minus the square root of 14 over 2. So put in your calculator the square root of 7 over 2. It would have been root of 7 over root of 2. You rationalize the denominator by multiplying it by root 2 over root 2, which is root 14 over 2. Okay? You with me? No. We got the square root of 7 over 2 is the same as saying the square root of 7 over the square root of 2. Not so? But remember the denominator we always rationalize. Not so? So that would be, so root 7 times root 2 is root 14. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. So when you punch that in the calculator, it will do that. You will always rationalize the denominator. Okay? So what do I do now? Take the 1 across. Becomes negative 1. So x is equal to, now 1, the LCM of course is 2. So x is equal to 2 plus minus the square root of 14 over 2. Otherwise you're going to put in the calculator 1 plus the root of 14 over 2. The answer should be 2 plus the root of 14 over 2. Yes? But that's not in its simplest form. Because I'll just, out of 5 or 6 marks, I'll just take 1 off from you. Is that okay? You have all your marks. Yeah, then you must go all the way. What kind of girl are you then? People, you guys understand? Alright. So do for me number. Got 3 minutes left. You can do 3 sums in that time, no? No. Okay, people, for homework, it's going to be the remainder of exercise 2.10. The remainder of exercise 2.10. People, the number 14 and 17, they ask you to solve the equation correct to 2 decimal places by completing the square. What do you? Now, if the question was for 2 decimal places completing the square on this one here, so that I can write here, x is equal to, well, do the next one. Let's do it. From the top, I'll do this. Page 39. Exercise 2.10. Solve the following equations correct to 2 decimal places by completing the square. So, we've got x squared plus 7x minus 10 is equal to 0. Not so. We took that over the equal sign. So we need the number to complete the square with minus that same number. What is the number in this case? 7 over 2, and it must be squared. 7 over 2 squared is 49 over 4. Perfect square trinomial. So that is going to give us x plus 7 over 2 squared minus 40 is 89 over 4. Okay? You all agree with that? So what do we do now? take negative 89 over 4 over. Becomes x plus 7 over 2 squared is equal to 89 over 4. We apply the square root both throughout. Not so? Not so? Don't forget plus minus. So it's x plus 7 over 2 equals plus minus the square root of 89 over 2. Absolutely. Now what? You take the negative 7 over 2 over the equal sign. So x is equal to negative 7 plus minus the square root of 89 over 2. But remember the question is correct to 2 decimal places. So again, I don't work it out on a page or in my head. Plug it in the calculator. I got negative 7 plus the square root of 89 over 2. Okay, and I press SD, standard decimal, 8,22. Or negative 1,22. And again, people can test it if you're correct. The sum is normally worth like 6 marks or 5 marks. I can test it. Okay? I'm going to put it in this, if I put it in this equation here, I press answer squared plus 7 times answer. Should now give you an answer of 10. Not so. Answer squared plus 7 answer. Huh. So that's not correct. So I made a mistake somewhere. Where's my mistake? Sorry? Oh, I didn't put negative 7. Okay. Set the decimal, right? That was right. So it's going to be answer squared plus 7 answer 10. Okay. And if I replace that with a plus, that was your other solution. And in that formula, should also give an answer 10. Okay. Thank you. Do you guys understand? No? So as I said, the reminder of this exercise for homework. Okay. Okay, the bell should have rung already. You guys can make back up.